good.
Awesome.
All right, while you guys are coming in, we're gonna talk about open water swimming. Paige, what is your favorite part about open water swimming?
Oh, I just love being outside. I love being, like, the cool thing about open water swimming is that every single race is really different. So there's different, there's like the body of water is different, the temperature is different, the weather, like I love all the different factors that go into it. And also it's just fun. I feel like it's kind of fun to be like in the mix with everyone. Like you feel like, I don't know, it's like you're rumbling together. Like instead of just your own lane, you're by yourself. There's some like challenges with swimming in a big group of people. So yeah, what about you? What's your favorite part?
I think open water swimming and pool swimming are two completely different sports. Kind of like you're playing water polo and swimming. Like they're in the water, but they're really two different things, and they have their own rules and mental strategy and a different experience that you get. So for me, I really like pool swimming because it's really structured, and I like open water swimming for the exact opposite of that, because it's not structured and you're basically out in the wild. You're in the wilderness. You can't see the bottom of anything most of the time, and you don't have to worry about turns. There's sighting, there's drafting, there's all these different things that come into play that you don't get in the pool, and I think that makes it a lot more interesting. And you get to go to like different locations. So when you're in the pool, you're confined to a 25 or 50 meter pool, but then when you go to open water, you could be in a tropical location, and when you breathe, you see palm trees.
Yeah.
Or, and even if you're not, and even if you're not at a tropical beach location, you get to experience so many different things in the water.
Yeah,
look how many people are waving. Whoa, look at all these people on the Instagram.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Tune in live. We're here. We're going to answer your questions about open water swimming.
Those all the questions,
tell us
people
where you're
joining.
from. We got people on Facebook from Egypt. We got Bridgman, Michigan. Tell us your favorite stroke.
Oh, I see Adam and Mike joined the feed. What's going on? What's up? What's up?
And comment your questions for us, and we'll answer them. I know I have a couple questions about open water swimming.
So on the Facebook Live, Adam says that he likes breaststroke. So if we were to do that open water, would you like to do open water breaststroke? Is that a thing? I mean, I heard Connor Yeager said that you'd do 30 minutes of breaststroke. So I think if you were to do a mile open water, 30 minutes of breaststroke, we might have to add that in the app and just have, a breaststroker's delight special, 30 minutes straight. Or not, whatever. So let's talk about open water swimming a little bit more. So what do you think, so we talked about things that we like about open water swimming versus pool swimming. What are some things that maybe make open water swimming harder or easier than pool swimming? Do you have any or tips to combat even that?
So first of all, the current. So whatever body of water you're in, it's very different than a pool. Second of all, there's a lot of people around you, so you have to learn how to like swim in a group. Third of all, I would say, not third of all, but I guess you're like your path, right? So you aren't in a regular pool lane where you're just going back and forth. You have to be strategic in what your path is. So I guess those are the three like hurdles I think that are biggest hurdles.
You know how open water swimming is easier than pool swimming? I got one for you. There's no flip turns.
That's true.
You don't have to do a flip turn. So you can literally just go swimming straight for 1,000 strokes, and you don't have to ever stop for a turn. So your streamline is not as important. So if you're not good at flip turns in the pool, you're probably going to be better off open water. Or if you're, for example, if you're like a smaller swimmer and you're not that explosive when you push off the wall, it helps you even more when you go to open water because you never have to push off the wall at all. So that's another thing that makes training in the open water. Now I will say open water can be way more intimidating. So if you're not as strong of a swimmer and you're more conditioned to swimming where you have lane lines, there's not really much current, you're not swimming on top of other people. It's a very controlled environment, and that's the key difference I think between open water. But there's so much, and the other thing that makes open water really interesting is drafting, right? So where you're like,
what's drafting? Can you?
So unlike a swimming pool, in a competition or even in training, everyone has their own space in the pool. But when you get to open water, you can swim right next to another swimmer, and you can actually you can swim so close to the other swimmers that you're actually touching them. And so what happens is, because you're swimming so close to another swimmer, you can actually catch what's called a draft off of the other swimmer. So, water is really dense. Water is 800 times more dense than air, and so you're going through a lot of resistance to move. And if there's a swimmer in front of you, they're actually cutting through the water and clearing out some of that resistance. So that way, if you're swimming immediately behind them, you're basically being pulled by the swimmer in front of you. And what that allows you to do is go just as fast, but use maybe 10 to 20% less energy. So you can swim faster over a longer period of time just because you're swimming right next to someone else or right behind them. And you see this all the time in cycling. You see all the bikers are all right next to each other. You see it in NASCAR, in race car driving, where all the cars are lined up right one after another. And they're doing that to conserve fuel and to be more efficient. So that way they can go just as fast and use less energy. For a car, that means less fuel consumption. And if you're a biker, it means you're using less energy and you can go just as fast. So that way, if you're racing, when it comes to the end of the race, if you're swimming behind someone else, they're the one doing all the work because they're pulling you, and then you can swim around them and pass them at the end of the race. So strategy becomes a lot more important in open water swimming, and you don't have any of that. You have a lot less of that in the pool. You can definitely draft in pool swimming, but it's definitely not as significant. I see some long comments here.
Would you recommend that? So when you're starting your race, if you're not in first place, do you want to automatically start drafting behind someone?
Yes and no. So it really depends on your skill level. So if you're just a beginner swimmer and you've never done an open water race, don't worry about drafting at all. Just make sure you go in the right direction. So if you see a buoy, just make sure you go towards the buoy. You don't want to cut the course short. So if you're a beginner, don't really worry about drafting. If you're more experienced and you've done open water swims before, or you have a bigger swimming background, you definitely want to pay attention to drafting. And what that means is, as soon as a race or workout starts, you want to be as close to another swimmer as possible without interfering with their stroke or your own stroke. So you don't want to sacrifice.
Can't, grab their ankles.
Yeah, so you're basically swimming as close as possible without touching the other swimmer. So and you also want to make sure you're going in the right direction. So if you're following a swimmer that's going the wrong way, then all of this drafting it goes out the window. It does not help to draft and go in the wrong direction. But if you're swimming and you see the buoy and there's a swimmer directly in front of you, it doesn't make any sense. It's actually worth it to speed up and waste a little bit of energy to catch up to them, so that way you're immediately behind them, and that way you can just follow the bubbles of their stroke, and they can basically pull you along. The more people that are in front of you, the more of a draft that you're going to be able to benefit from. So if there's only one swimmer, it's better to be. So if you want to be in a pack, that's the goal of open water swimming. You never want to swim alone. If you're swimming alone in open water, you're not getting the benefit of any draft, and you're going to have to spot more frequently because there's no one in front of you that you can follow to make sure you're going in the right direction. So you always want to try and gravitate towards a pack, and you can even get the benefit of drafting even if you're not directly behind a swimmer, even if you're slightly to the side of them. So oftentimes you'll see like a V formation. So you'll have the lead swimmer, and there might be 1 or 2 or 3 swimmers that are all parallel right behind that lead swimmer. And then you go 1 swimmer, and then 3 swimmers, and then maybe 4 or 5 swimmers, and then maybe like 10 swimmers, all sort of making a V formation, all drafting off of one another. Yeah. So drafting is super important. And if you watch any elite swimming, you're going to see everyone swimming in a straight line or a V, one after another.
Cool. We got a question from Mrs. O'Phelan on Instagram. Should you breathe on either side or just do what's comfortable? I guess, what about breathing specifically for open water?
Hello from Brazil. Yeah, so for breathing, in a pool, it's definitely a good idea to balance your stroke. Yeah. You don't have to do it all the time. It's okay to favor one side, but maybe it's a warm-up set of 850s where you focus on bilaterally breathing, so breathing every 3 or 5 strokes. When it comes to open water swimming, it's a little bit different because you're sighting, so that's like a new element that you're adding to it. So let's say you breathe every 2 strokes, which is what I do. A lot of swimmers breathe every 2 strokes. It's completely fine to only breathe every 2 strokes in open water, as long as you incorporate sighting into those 2 strokes. So maybe you breathe every 2 strokes, and that's fine, and then every 8 strokes or every 4 strokes, you sneak a breath in where you sight and you spot the buoy. And sighting is basically just where you lift your head up to spot where you're trying to go, and you can spot the buoy, sight the buoy, and then you can put your head back down. So breathing every 2 is fine. It's good to be able to be, it's good to be comfortable breathing on both sides. So that way, if you want to spot like are there other swimmers on the other side of me?
Yeah.
You know, you can breathe on your left side or your right side, whichever one's not your dominant side, and to be comfortable doing that. So that way it doesn't throw off your stroke. But it's okay to be biased to one side when it comes to breathing. Just make sure that you're sighting frequently enough so that way you know where you're going and you're going in the right direction.
Okay, here's a question. So what if you are open, like you're racing open water and it's really cold, the water's freezing. We all know that feeling where your lungs kind of like tense up and your muscles tense up.
Yeah.
What can you do to, you know, like prolong your energy and help with dealing with colder water? Like, should you breathe differently?
Don't panic. I mean, that's probably the most basic thing. Do not panic, because if you panic, what's gonna because it's really cold and you're like, oh, I'm so cold, it's freezing, and your body starts to shake. If you panic and you don't get your what's gonna happen is your heart rate's gonna go up, and you're gonna take quicker, shorter breaths, which are less efficient. So you're gonna get less oxygen, which means you're gonna fatigue faster, and you're gonna get tired more quickly, and that's no good. And you're not gonna get warm. So do not panic. Fight the urge to, you know, have your heart rate go up. You want to be able to relax yourself, and that's a lot of it is actually mental. It's not really much physical. It's mostly mental. So even if you have a wetsuit and if you panic, you know, that's all mental. So wetsuit or no wetsuit, if the water is really cold and you have anxiety about having so many other people out in the water, the best thing you can do is to try and focus all your energy on relaxing and lowering your the rate of your breath. So instead of breathing really fast, you want to breathe a lot more controlled. So breathe in your nose, out your mouth. Really simple breathing exercise. I mean, try it with me right now, right? So in your nose, out your mouth. And if you can do that, you know, 4, 5, 6 breaths in a row, and be very intentional with the way that you're breathing, it's going to lower your heart rate, and your body's going to naturally acclimate to the water. So you're not going to feel it's cold. The water is going to feel cold in the beginning for everyone. Yeah. So just know that you're not the only one that has to deal with it, and just breathe in your nose, out your mouth. And when you start swimming, if you can maintain a relaxed tempo and not overexert yourself, then you're going to have way more energy over the course of the whole open water swim. And if you're doing a triathlon, you're going to have way more energy for the bike and the run, which are honestly more important for the triathlon. Because if you waste all your energy on the swim, then your bike and run are not going to feel very good.
Yeah. What about, I mean, at least like in practice, if you're I don't know exactly how every competition works, but if you're tired, like switching to backstroke or breaststroke.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You know, like what's the strategy with that? Of like, do you want to kind of take a 30-second breather and do backstroke, or?
Yeah, and again, this depends on your skill level. So if you're new to open water swimming, it's totally okay to do breaststroke for half the race, if not all of it, right? So if you're swimming freestyle and you start to get really tired and you want to really, you know, you need to collect yourself, it's okay, just stop. You know, take a breather, tread water, start doing breaststroke, do some backstroke just to recover, do a few strokes. Totally okay. And you'll actually even see the more elite swimmers in open water throw in a little bit of backstroke and breaststroke just to make sure that they're, you know, calm and collected and going in the right direction. So breaststroke is a really good, not really break, but a way to mix up the open water. So that way,
mix up your stroke. Whereas like in a pool, you know, you get like a flip turn and you get a streamline. So you at least get like 2 seconds, you know, every now and then to kind of take a break and you know, relax your muscles a little bit, I guess. Cool. Okay, so what about when you're approaching a buoy? Like, what's the strategy of when it's crowded? Do you want to go wide? Do you want to go short? Like, what's the
So I've been on multiple sides of the buoy question. So when you're approaching a buoy and you have to turn around it, if you're swimming with a lot of other swimmers, and let's say there's no current, because the current can play an effect here, what's going to happen is everyone, most of the time, is going to try and cut the buoy really, really close, like swim as close to the buoy as possible. What can happen is if you're on the inside of that turn, you can actually get pushed over from all the other swimmers trying to turn around the buoy, and you'll end up not even going around the buoy, and that's how you can get disqualified if you're doing a race. So it's really important to figure out like how many people are swimming next to you and how many of you will go around the buoy at the same time. Because if you're on the inside and you're turning around it, I've seen this happen multiple times, and I've been on the unfortunate side of this, where all of the swimmers, and this is with no current, if there's a current pushing you in, most likely half the swimmers won't even go around the buoy. They'll all cut the buoy short, and you'll have to swim all the way back around it, and that can add, easily 20 to 30 seconds to your overall time, and you can fall maybe 10, 15, 20 positions behind just because of that. So really pay attention to where the other swimmers are. If you're in the middle of the pack, that's actually the best for the turn. And then if you're more advanced, there's actually some ways that you can, let's say you have to turn 90 degrees, you have to make like a left turn. You can actually keep swimming and do the turn at the same time by incorporating backstrokes. That's a more advanced skill that you probably know how to do it if you're watching this and you know what that is. So basically, you swim into the buoy, and let's say Paige was the buoy. Actually, this is hard to demonstrate. So let's say the buoy is right here. So Paige is swimming, and I'm swimming too. The buoy is right here in front of us. So we're gonna swim, and I'm actually going to do a backstroke stroke around the buoy, and then I'm gonna keep swimming around it. So it's hard to demonstrate on land, but you'll have to keep an eye out for my SwimPro video that'll demonstrate how you're supposed to turn for open water.
Nice.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to keep swimming freestyle, and it's going to take a really long time to turn around it, or you're going to do breaststroke.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tricky, but just make sure you don't cut it
All right, I have one
short.
more question for you, Ferris. Let's say the current, like, how do you sight with a strong current? So if the buoy is here and the current's coming this way, right? How do you judge how to swim with a current, I guess?
Hello from Madrid. Yeah, so if you have a current... Yeah, so you have to reposition yourself if there's a lot of current. So if there's a current, you're most likely not going to swim in a straight line. The current is going to push you. So you might have to actually angle your body in the direction that you swim towards the current a little bit, so that way the current pushes you in the direction that you want to end up going. So you're not really swimming into the current depending on where you're going, but you have to, you might not be able to swim in a straight line to get to the buoy, because if you do that, the current will push you and you'll end up on the other side of the buoy that you want to be. So you might have to angle yourself maybe 10 degrees, 20 degrees, depending on how strong the current is. And that's where spotting becomes so important, because you want to make sure you're still moving in the right direction, so that way you end up going where you want to end up going.
Cool. Well, people on Instagram, Facebook Live.
Wow, I've never thought of these tips.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions for us, we'd love to answer them. We do this every Tuesday. I know we got some people on Facebook.
Brian Young joining the Instagram or the feed. What's going on?
Sam Curtis, I love his comment. So he says, swimming in Lake Michigan, it's wonderful to listen to your natural surroundings in the morning while swimming in the lake. It's a natural high. It's so true. Open water swimming is so nice. You go at sunset or in the morning.
Who submitted the comment? Sam?
Sam Curtis.
Sam, thanks for the shout out. All right, Sam's going to love this. So we are in Michigan right now, and Michigan has more freshwater coastline than any other state in the union. So of all the other states in America, in the United States, Michigan has more freshwater coastline, meaning there's more opportunities to swim in open water than anywhere else in the United States, right in our own very backyard. Yeah. So if you're from Michigan,
where do you like to swim? Like,
shout out.
What's your open water spot in Michigan?
In Michigan, it's where I live. So in Lake St. Clair. So Lake St. Clair is right in Detroit. So the Detroit River opens up to Lake St. Clair. It's really cool. It's an international body of water. So you have Canada. What's up, Canadian friends, eh? On the other side of the river. That's really cool. So I think that's, for me, is my favorite. How about you?
I love this lake up in northern Michigan called Elk Lake. I've also swum in La Jolla Shores in San Diego,
California. San Diego.
Or not La Jolla Shores, but the Cove swim.
The Cove.
So you go from a cove to the beach, and it's awesome. There's like sharks and a bunch of fish. It's really cool. So you guys should tell us in the comments, where do you do your open water swimming? What's your favorite race? We got people all over the world. It's really cool. So.
Any more from Facebook? I think maybe we do like one more question or one more comment.
We got Brian Young. So he's asking, I've heard to maybe increase stroke rate in strong current to not be thrown off the course too much. Do you agree?
Brian, yeah, that's a great question, Brian. So when it comes to tempo, there's so many variables to that question, like how long is the course? If it's a triathlon, like how good are you at the swim relative to the other portions? Like how much energy do you want to conserve? I would say you want to be careful increasing your tempo too much if that's not how you swim freestyle like on your own. So if you have a really slow tempo freestyle and there's a current, you're better off focusing on like the direction that you're swimming more so than actually changing your stroke, because if you increase your tempo, you're just going to waste a lot of energy. So you might actually be faster and combat the current, but with open water swimming especially, you're actually better off feeling the flow and kind of just going with it. So you're better off spotting, adjust the direction of your body, and maintain your stroke mechanics that you trained with. So if in training, if you play with your tempo a lot and you change how fast you move your arms, then in open water, you're probably gonna be able to do that and it won't take much of a hit on your energy. Versus if you're used to swimming with the same tempo all the time in training, you should definitely not change it when it comes to an actual race, because that'll just waste a lot of energy. So that's just my 2 cents on that one. Thanks for the question, Brian. I'm looking from Moscow. Hello from Russia. I need to learn how to say hello in all these languages.
We got a lot of questions about, I know you guys are asking for tips that are not open water swimming.
That's coming later.
For the sake of time, today we're just going to talk about open water swimming, but tune in next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and we can answer your pool-related questions.
And with that, we're going to sign off for this episode of Ask a Swim Pro. We're going to see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.